where are you going to be, Philly?
Right here.
Right there.
I'm looking for right here somewhere. How's this?
Perfect.
Pretty good? Excellent. All right. Let's move this up a little bit.
So you have a good stream going.
Let's try that. Check. Check. Ooh, we're not getting much already. Check. Check. No, we're not getting anything.
Nothing.
What do we got here? Let's check. Check it out. Try again. Oh, there we go. There we go. Oh, yeah. That's much better. Okay. So people can turn that on for Jason. I think both our hymns are in the blue book, right?
And yeah, Spirit of Life.
Everybody knows Spirit of Life.
Yeah, exactly.
Not looking Spirit of Life out for one. That
right.
book out for one. All right, I'll go get some of the blue ones.
I'm going to turn you guys in the shade.
Well, not much shade left, but
Yeah, I might just have one.
most it helps a little bit.
Here's loves right there. 16. Yeah, but
So there's a dead tree that we're going to chop down.
is that one?
Okay.
That would be for
Where's the dead tree?
it's on the
Okay. How big is the tree? You want big?
there you go.
Okay,
I can do.
thanks.
Silenced.
Hello.
Silenced.
Hi, Alan.
Hey, how are you?
Hello.
thirsts my soul like the open sky where the stars forever have lain. Where the stars, where the stars, where the stars forever have lain. My hands hold the weavings of time without end. My sight as deep as the sea. Beating my heart sounds the measures of all that of love's eternity. That of love, that of love, that of love's eternity. I feel the tides as they answer the moon, rushing on a far distant sand. Breathing my song is the wind of my breast, and my love was over the land. And my love, and my love, and my love was over the land. My foot carries days of the old into new. Our dreaming shows us the way. Once our faith settles deep in the earth, rising green to bring a new day. Rising green, rising green, rising green to bring a new day.
Live now.
Have you ever brought one up to the linear
Good morning. Good morning. Hey, it's great to have people here. It's great to be live in person. And we still welcome everybody who's joining us live via our live stream on the internet. I'm Reverend Tony Lorenzo, the minister here at the UUMeriden and also the Mattatuck UU Society out in Woodbury. And we're continuing our summer. This morning we're going to take a look at gold medal spirituality, how the Olympics give us a little bit of the whole spread of the human condition and the human heart. We encourage everybody, if you're outside, it's okay not to wear masks. If you go in the building or you're real close to lots of people, please mask up. That Delta variant is broken up again. If you need to use the restroom, obviously, please don't come in this way until the service is over. Go around to use the side door. We acknowledge whenever we gather that we are on land that was once occupied, used, and the ancestral and contemporary home of native populations here in Connecticut. And we seek in our encouraging efforts to get to know who those people are, establish relationship, and promote things that they need for their just and ongoing survival. Being Unitarian Universalists, we begin our services by lighting the symbol of our faith, the flaming chalice. May this flame encourage us to keep a spirit of compassion, kindness, and love in our hearts. I invite everybody to actually sing. How about that? We're going to do hymn number 1068, Rising Green. singing, like live in person. It seems like a whole new endeavor we just invented for church services, doesn't it? All right. So I realized the story I wanted to tell this morning was really long, so I switched to a different one. Because being outside in a different setting, I figured we'd keep the service a little shorter. So I want to tell the story about the noble deer this morning, which also has a lot to do with the other things we'll talk about this morning. There once was a long time ago, what'd they have? They had kings. So of course there was a king, right? And of course, the king is going to be one of those folks because they're a king and because patriarchy and because long time ago is really powerful and really rich and tends to get their way with everything. And one of the things this king, of course, likes to do back in the day is hunt. And so one day, out for a walk among his varied lands, keeping an eye out for poachers, trespassers, and other lesser beings who shouldn't encroach on his privilege, he sees a beautiful, huge deer step out of the forest. Tall, muscular, bright-eyed, huge rack of antlers. And you know what the king says to himself? What he thinks to himself? I've got to kill it! Of course he does. So he returns to his home and his huge castle, and he prepares for a massive hunt, taking all the weapons of his day and a pack and things that help him track deer and all his assistants, and they tramp off into the woods. They see this huge deer leaping through the woods, and they give chase. The king, ignoring his assistants and aides and advice to kind of watch where he's going, but he ignores them, and he figures he's doing a great job for a guy who's relatively older and, enjoying the fruits of many feasts in his hall, and he's making pretty good progress after the deer. The deer isn't, getting much further away with every step. And as he crosses trees and jumps over limbs and skirts across mud puddles, he's really not paying attention to where he's going because, what the hunters want to do. They want to kill things. So he does not see, as he bursts through a muddy clearing and starts to sink, that he has run right into quicksand. The king starts to scream for help and waggle all over the place. And of course, if you know anything about quicksand, this is just making everything worse. And he starts to sink faster. And he's just about to start his prayers of, "Oh God, rescue me," when through the brush pokes a huge rack of antlers. Stepping securely to the last sound ground footing, the deer squares itself and looks the king in the eye and lowers its head so the antlers are within reach. And the king is in a state of shock and disbelief. And he looks at the deer in the eye, and the deer gives a quick nod, like, "Come on, you stupid king, grab the antlers before you sink." And so the king reaches for the antlers, and the deer backs out until the king is safe on firm ground. The deer hears the king's party approaching, nods once more at the king, takes off through the forest. The king says to his assistants, "We cannot continue the hunt. The deer that I was going to kill stopped, returned for me, its predator, and saved my life. I shall hunt no more, for the deer has taught me the value of the life of all things." And the king returned to his great hall, and they celebrated that with a huge vegetarian feast. When I first started using Kindles for preaching notes, the print was really small, like a newspaper. Now it's really big, like the large print books at the library. So the Olympics just concluded in Tokyo. Did people catch any of the Olympics, watch things live, catch videos, catch the news? I think if you look closely enough at any major human event like the Olympics, there's going to be a vast array of metaphors and symbols and things that relate to much of the human condition. Most major human events will, if you look at them, reflect the current state of being human in all its beauty and terror and grace and triumph and tragedy, the good, the bad, and the ugly. The Olympics is just one such thing that abounds in these metaphors and symbols and connections to human life. And I will admit that I once was full of Olympic spirit, loved the Olympics. And I think until this year, I'd gone a long while without caring about them very much. And I started to wonder why that was. I grew up in the 70s and 80s. Fascinating time to have come of age just in terms of technology, because we were in a couple decades right in between humanity really having grown accustomed to television and radio and telephones, and the hyper-acceleration we'd fall into a generation, my generation later, of the internet and digital everything and all kinds of stuff like that. We had grown used to making calls on the analog phone, long playing record albums where you could listen to actual 20, 25 minutes of music before getting up to go to the record player. Amazing technology, that. We'd grown used to planning our lives around checking the physical answering machine, big bulky thing hooked up to your phone. And we'd grown accustomed to arranging our lives and our schedules around television programming schedules. Pretty neat, huh? They told you in TV Guide when the things were going to be on. It was so awesome. It was amazing we had that. And yet in the span of time when Gen X grows up, technology goes from TV and cable and VHS to satellite dish and streaming digital on demand 24/7. Music would go from those long plain plastic round things to 8-tracks and cassettes and CDs and then digital files that you could also stream from anywhere on anything. And we went from appointment television and watching the nightly network news to the live streaming internet where you could watch anything you wanted any time of day or night, 7 days a week. And your news feed was a constant 24-hour news cycle where you could not only see what's happening all over the world, but you could watch it live streamed as it happens, like right now, right? And I wonder if this had a little bit of an impact on the Olympics, for me or for others for a while. Because the Olympics were like the epitome of something made for appointment TV, were they not? They only happened every 4 years. This was before they started alternating the summer and winter games, so you kind of have them every 2 years. They were only every 4 years. And they were broadcast in these huge 3, sometimes 4-hour primetime chunks where a network would scrap its entire line of primetime programming for 2 weeks to show you the Olympic Games. The Olympics almost, in that culture and that technology, forced you to pay attention. The nightly news was full of highlights. The morning sports section, even the front pages of newspapers, had all the recaps. And being an earnest, working-class white kid in central Massachusetts, I loved the Olympics. I loved the contests. I loved the strength. Like all kids my age in that culture, I thought myself an athlete. I played baseball and football and basketball and whatnot. But appointment television gave you short segments of, don't miss the niche sports like water polo. that we'll show you for 7 minutes, just long enough for you to say, oh, that's kind of cool, but not long enough for you to realize how boring it actually is except to water polo players. I realize I am just speaking for myself here, but modern pentathlon has no way to keep up with baseball or football in a 10-year-old kid's viewing habit, right? I love the intensity the athletes would show, however, the smiling joy on faces of winners, and I related all too well to those who lost or got injured, having endured 3 seasons in a row as a little leaguer with teams that won 2 and lost 18 in 20-game seasons. You know, I was starting to get ready to have my team wear Charlie Brown stripes, right, for our uniforms. And one of the things I love best, and I don't know if this was typical of children, but it may have been popular with others, is even as a child, I love those up-close and personal segments. I think that's what they called them when the networks did them. They do this profile of the athlete with a great compelling story, overcoming a childhood disease, dedicating a gold medal to a dying parent, growing up with a special athletic gift, but in a part of the world where there was little opportunity to use it, develop it, and compete, and few resources to get to places where you could, but somehow they made it to one of those places and made it to the Olympics. The Olympics, to me as a child growing up, truly seemed like a world stage. And as I was just learning to pay attention to events in my childhood, the Olympics replaced the Cold War and Richard Nixon and lines to buy gas in your car and hostages in Iran and famine and war with smiling, laughing athletes from all over the world, people cheering for them and cheering for them. And it seemed that only 2 weeks, how did a peace, love, and understanding actually be possible? Because normally those were starting to see even to a child as I was as ridiculous as the Russian weightlifter actually losing or the American swimmers being defeated. I think my earliest memory of any particular Olympics was Munich in 1972, and watching that with my dad. My dad was a swimmer as a young man, and himself just missed making the Olympic swim team in 1952. There were 3 alternates on the team, and he came into place 2 after the last alternate in the trials for a number of different things. So my dad just missed being in those 52 Olympics, and he loved watching the swimming. He loved it in Wide World of Sports, and of course he loved it in the Olympics. And one of the most pure expressions of joy I ever remember on my dad is him watching Mark Spitz in 1972. It's one of my earliest memories of just the pure joy and smile and laughter and cheering on my dad's face as Mark Spitz won 7 gold medals, each in world record time. He was just over the moon as a fan of swimming and a swimmer. I also remember him at his worst. One of my early memories is my dad yelling and screaming and singing words I won't repeat when an official made a late call and the United States lost to the Russians in the basketball final by a point. Oh boy, my dad was very mad at those international referees. I picked up on that lesson. And the very first time I remember watching those Olympics, that late summer in '72 as school started, I remember the highs and lows. I didn't think of it like that then. But boy, when I started to reflect this week, they were ingrained. And I also remembered one of the most tragic things from the Olympics. The Olympics give us the breadth and depth of the human condition and tragedy no less than anything else. And one of my earliest memories is my dad having to explain to me that 11 Israeli athletes were murdered by terrorists, by people who were mad at them, just for being Jewish. I didn't quite understand that then, but I do now. And I know that even with its glory, The Olympics also conveys to us the tragedy of being human. Quickly coming to mind of other tragic stories where Nancy Kerrigan, the ice skater, getting beat up and injured right before skating for a gold medal. Mary Decker and Zola Budd crashing into each other in 1984 in women's track and field. My dad telling me of Jim Thorpe's medals being rescinded because he was a professional athlete, although he was a professional football and baseball player, not a professional track and field athlete. Remember Greg Louganis cracking his head open on the diving board and then continuing to dive? Remember that as I got just old enough to understand these things better, watching the games in Sarajevo, and then really kind of being alert as I started to grow up of Sarajevo being blown to bits. None of the venues and stadiums left in that war. Among the things the Olympics will show us about being human is the importance of justice. Every once in a while, an Olympic triumph will teach the world a lesson. Jesse Owens spitting in the Nazis' face in Berlin in 1936, winning gold medals, single-handedly dismissing the idea of the Nazis' Aryan supremacy. African-American sprinters Tommy Smith and John Carlos raising their fists in the Black Power salute on the podium in 1968. What's often left out of reporting in the history of that story is they also wore scarves and beads to call attention to the problem of lynching. They also stood on the podium barefoot to draw attention to American poverty. Their careers were ruined for doing that. It was still the right thing to do. The Olympics call attention to privilege and power. Just recently in 2016, you may remember when Rio de Janeiro was awarded the Games, they promised to improve infrastructure, to take care of the slums in Rio. And yet, as the opening ceremonies took place, there was lots of infrastructure improvement, but it was all around the venues in the wealthiest neighborhoods. And during those games, there were protests and civil disobedience and art and murals and disruptions, calling attention to the broken promises. The Olympics also show us moments of courage and inspiration. Remember Kerry Struggs vaulting on one leg in 1984 to secure a team gold medal? Amazing display of courage and stamina. And yet, as Simone Biles backed out of competition this year, citing legitimate mental health issues, I wonder perhaps if Kerry Struggs shouldn't have taken care of herself a little bit more back then. I don't know. Underdog stories always come through the Olympics, and who doesn't love to root for the underdog? I mean, I grew up as a Red Sox fan. I mean, until 2004, I thought that was the only thing you could root for. So many of my favorite Olympic moments are underdog stories. Now, of course, the greatest one ever is the 1980 American hockey team beating the Soviet Union and then beating Finland for the gold medal a few days later. And it really was the sporting equivalent of a bunch of local high school kids beating the Yankees or Red Sox. That's how much of an upset that was, and it was just glorious. Do you remember Michael Edwards from Great Britain, Eddie the Eagle, the first ski jumper in 60 years for Great Britain? Eddie, as his friends called him, wanted to be in the Olympics so bad that he looked for a sport that Great Britain didn't field any athletes in so he could get on the team. This is his real story. I mean, what a story is this, right? And after he competed and did horribly in 1988 in Calgary, they made the Eddie the Eagle rule that increased the qualifying criteria so no Eddies could ever happen again. That's a shame. Rulon Gardner, a Greco-Roman wrestler from Wyoming, in the 2000 Olympics, in the gold medal match, which no one expected Rulon Gardner to even be in, he faced Alexander Karelin from Russia, who hadn't lost in 13 years. But he lost to Rulon Gardner for the gold medal. What a story that was. And this year in Tokyo, Tunisia's Ahmed Hafnaoui shocked the swimming world, my dad would have cheered, by winning Tunisia's first ever swimming gold medal. Heidelin Diaz from the Philippines won the first ever gold medal in any Olympic sport for the Philippines, and only their 11th in history when she set a world record in the women's 55-kilo weight class with a lift of a combined 224 kilos. Alessandra Perilli of San Marino won that country's first ever Olympic medal of any kind, placing third in women's trap shooting. Did you see any of these? Did you see these highlights? Yeah, they were great. Flora Duffy won Bermuda's first gold medal when she won the women's triathlon. And just competing in a triathlon gets a gold medal from me. I mean, I couldn't walk and have someone push me on a bike and pull me in a boat for a triathlon and still finish, never mind what they do. The Olympics remind us on a regular basis what's truly possible, that we can overcome diversity, achieve things no one thought we could achieve. And perhaps the best lesson is this: it reminds us to remember hope. Even better than underdog stories, however, are good sportsmanship stories. Like the deer who is good enough sport that actually saves the life of their predator, right? The noble deer. Lawrence Lemieux, sailing for Canada in 1988, is just about to tack and make a pass into first place. And then he saw one of the other competitors capsize in very rough seas. He immediately turned his boat and saved the person. Lost the gold medal. Didn't finish the race. Was probably the greatest champion of that year's games. This year in Tokyo, one of my favorite Olympic stories ever. I hope you saw this, because if you haven't, you've got to look up the video. Gianmarco Tamberi of Italy and Mutaz Barshim of Qatar had tied after the final round in the men's high jump. The Olympic official starts to explain to them how the tiebreaker jump-off will work when Barshim butts in and says, "Can't there be two medals?" The Olympic official looks at him quizzically and says, "Well, yes, but," and starts to explain, but doesn't need to finish because the two competitors are jumping up and down, hugging each other, celebrating their shared gold medal. How amazing is that? When people won't get vaccinated and people get arrested or killed for being black while driving or even walking, when insurance executives get $79 million a year salaries while there are people without health care in the richest country in the world, the things the Olympics remind me of is that it's possible to share even a gold medal. That there's enough kindness and enough wealth and enough love to go around. We just need to learn how to share it better. Everything does not have to be about winning. Has anybody been watching Ted Lasso on Apple Plus TV? Can't recommend Ted Lasso highly enough. The premise is wonderful. A recently divorced, very wealthy woman in Great Britain in a divorce settlement inherits her husband's Premier League soccer team. As an extra dig to get back at him, she hires an American college football coach, Ted Lasso, who knows nothing about soccer, to coach the team. He knows nothing about soccer, but he knows how to coach people, and he knows how to treat people. And all of a sudden, her life and the lives of all the players start to have vast improvements. And all of a sudden, it's a different team. And he still knows nothing about soccer. It's a great little show. You know, I wish sports was all the time like, hell, I wish life was all the time like Ted Lasso. It's that good. But those two high jumpers, not even thinking a beat about it, sharing. Canadian sailor, not even thinking a beat about winning because someone was drowning. It reminds us of glory, but it's not the glory of winning. It's the glory of being human. This year in Tokyo, we had the first openly transgender person win a gold medal, a member of the women's Canadian soccer team. We're getting there step by step, even when it seems dark. I'd like to finish with this social media post by someone named Robin Alpenboy. You may have seen it. A child of Sudan refugees won gold for America in the 800-meter dash. A country white dude won gold for us in shot put. A child of Laotian refugees won gold in artistic all-around gymnastics. A native Hawaiian won gold for us in surfing. A Muslim Guyanese American helped us win gold in the women's 4x400 relay. An openly gay woman led our basketball team to gold medal. A woman more mixed race than Barack Obama won us gold in the women's 400 hurdles. A descendant of American slaves and a Puerto Rican brother helped us win gold in men's basketball. Our diversity is our strength. Remember this, y'all, when you're bickering. And perhaps that's something we need to remember too. That all the glory the Olympics shows us, it's not about gold medals, it's about being human at our best. Spirit of life. Our hearts hurt with the tragedies in Haiti and Afghanistan and the pain of the world. But let us draw hope and energy and inspiration from the efforts of Olympic athletes and all people who strive for human excellence. Let us be encouraged by their effort, that mastery of something meaningful is a transformative journey, all its own reward. Let us be reconciled and humbled by their failures, for we too fail in ways great and small. Let us be strengthened by their victories of both contest and character, that we may see reflected in that achievement our great and small successes, especially those victories of character where we side with love against the enemies of kindness, compassion, and fairness. We are weary of battling COVID, and we're angry at those who refuse vaccinations and get in the way of community health and wholeness. We're frustrated at our lack of control over the irrational behavior of others. We're stunned in our sadness at those who don't value our lives and health as much as we value theirs. Yet may we remain true to our ethic of love, having compassion even upon those without compassion or integrity, and may they find a change of heart for their health and safety, well-being, and for ours. I invite those of you, we don't have candles, but I invite those of you who are feeling so moved to come and share with us whatever joys and concerns are in your heart. That microphone will actually go on if you flip the switch, if you turn it on, and I open that to you to share as you feel so called.
Hi, I'm Donna. A dear friend of mine, Pat, just lost a friend of hers, Joyce, to cancer. They were friends for 66 years.
for these and for everything that's been left unspoken here this morning, for those who are dealing with illnesses visible and invisible, for those in need of comfort and companionship. We offer up all these aspirations in the name of everything glorious and good, kind and compassionate. Let's sing Spirit of Life. I made a note not to forget having an offering plate this week because I forgot one last week in Woodbury. Guess what? I forgot it again. So I want to reverse a little order of things and ask that if anyone has any brief announcements we need to hear, let us make those. I'm going to run in and get a basket real quick.
In case you didn't see the obituary in the Record Journal, the brother of our member Robert Muir died within half an hour or so, and there was a ceremony for him this past week.
Hi, I'm Trish. President also, one of the organizers of the holiday. Well, Trish, I'm one of the organizers of the holiday fair. We're going to be having a meeting next Thursday at 6:30 here at the church. So if you're interested, please see me or Diane, or email us. There'll be something in the weekly update.
Thank you, Donna. Any other announcements? I'd like to remind us as we begin gathering together again, even though it's probably going to be outside for a little while, we have name tags inside, and we need to remember to bring those out and wear them, because a lot of us know who each other are, but we don't wear them for us. We wear them for people who are newer to us, so they know who we are, and it's a little more welcoming, all right? Let's close by singing Blue Boat Home. It's number 1064. Grateful this morning for Ellery being back with us. And as always for Jeff May producing and arranging our live streaming. So we are now always going to be multi-format. No matter what we're on now. We've had the chalice extinguished by the wind, but that's okay. Because even every 4 years that Olympic flame has to go out and go to the next place. So when this flame goes out, it goes to the next place, which is within us. And we'll carry that within us as we go about our daily lives. And maybe that flame in our heart reminds us to remember that everyone we encounter is going through that human condition. Let's be champions of love as we go among them. Go in peace, holy ones.